Hey everybody, it's Cassie. Welcome back for another Fun Fold Friday here on my YouTube channel. I know we haven't done one of these in a while. Life is busy. I think we're going to have to go to once a month, as much as I'd love to do it every week or even every other week. So let's take a quick look at what we're going to make. It's a variation of a gatefold. I've seen this around and I'm excited to make it. This is what we're going to be using today. This is from Simon Hurley Create. I believe this was released last year. This is called the Fall Sampler Stamps, and we also have the dies. It's just really beautiful. I love the little floral addition you can put with each of those pieces, and we will be using those for our pumpkins. And then there's the dies. So let's go ahead and keep everything at normal rate. I'm going to take a regular piece of 8.5 by 11 inch cardstock, and we're going to cut this at 5.5 inches going that long way. All right, now this long skinny piece, we're going to cut this down to. We're going to cut this down to 2.5 inches by 10 inches. So we'll cut this to 2.5, and then this piece will then get cut to 10 inches. Okay, that's going to be that front little piece that you saw earlier that's going to come slide on and off of that. Now this needs to be our base, so we're going to cut this to 5.5 inches by 8.5 inches. So it's going to be an A2 size card, but there you have it. And then we're going to go ahead and score this while we're thinking about it. Let's score it at 2 1/8 on this side, and the reason we need to do that is because the front of a A2 size card is 4 1/4. So let's score that at 2 1/8, and then we're just going to flip it around and we're going to score it again at 2 1/8. Now we may need to trim that down a little bit, and I do later on, but we're just scoring that, and then we'll fold that in to make our gatefold. Gatefolds are super simple, and they're just a fun way to make a card. Makes it a little bit different. Rather than just opening it from one side, you're opening it from the middle. So I'll just reinforce those lines, and they do kind of overlap, so when the time comes, we will trim those down. All right, we're going to set that off to the side, and let's score this piece. So this piece has lots of scores to it, and I'm going to put those up on the screen, and we'll talk about them as we go. We're going to start off by scoring at 2.5 inches. So go ahead and score it at 2.5. Then you're going to move that on down to 3 3/4. So once you have it down to 3 3/4, go ahead and score that. Move it down now to 5 inches. We're moving those are each like 1 1/4 is really what it is. So that's at 5 inches. Then we're going to move it 2.5 inches down to 7.5 inches. So go ahead and score that now at 7.5 inches. And then you just have one more score to make on this one. And that's going to be at 8 3/4. So go ahead and move that on down to 8 3/4. And then we're going to start bringing in some glue. This is, like I said, this is the piece that's going to slide off and on of that gatefold to keep it closed. So I'm going to fold this one in. The next fold we're going to kind of fold out. Then we're going to go ahead and fold in again. And then these last pieces are going to be folded in and out again. And I need to go ahead on that center big chunk there. That's 2.5 inches by 2.5 inches. We're going to use our glue in the center there. We need to glue down those two flaps. And I find that liquid glue works best. That really just holds everything. That means you've got to hold it for a little bit, for a few seconds, and that's fine. But I'm going to go ahead and hold that there. Pushing down, letting everything adhere. And then now on these two inside flaps, we're going to glue that other square that's 2.5 inches on down. All right. So just bring in that liquid glue again, do the same thing. It's going to leave channels on those sides and it'll just give this nice little center part that, you know, is what slides up and down the gate. So once again, holding that just to make sure everything adheres nicely. And it's really not that thick, but yeah, it'll open up almost like if you opened it up all the way, it'd look like an X. You don't want to do that, but Yeah, that's what it's going to look like, because that's what's going to slide up and down your gate. While we have all those pieces, we're going to go ahead and adhere down some of our pattern paper. We're going to go ahead and double time up again, because we've done all of our folding and everything else. If you need to rewind or go back or write things down, please feel free. I grabbed some pattern paper that I have had for eons. Some of you might recognize this paper. I could not tell you who it's from. It was just in there and I thought it was pretty and fall-like, so that's what we did. I cut it down to 5.5 inches so it would go from top to bottom, but then I trimmed it down to 2 inches. So it's going to leave a tiny border all around those, or on the sides. And then I'll attach down the other one, same. And then I decide I'm going to need to trim down those edges because they meet too close in the center. You do need a little bit of room for your piece to move along that channel. So I'm talking about like just trimming off a hair's worth. You can always trim more off. You can't add it back on. So I just trimmed off just enough so that this is going to slide up and down that. And it might be difficult at first, just like anytime you're using anything, or, using a channel on any of your paper, you're going to need to work it up and down quite a bit. And the more you work it up and down, the easier it becomes. So just play around with it. And then I'll go ahead and attach down this piece of pattern paper that went along with that kit, or not kit, but along with those pattern papers. And these papers may have come along in a kit. I'm not sure. Like I said, it's been years. I don't even remember. But they're so pretty. I obviously hung on to them for a reason. And I'm getting to that point now where I just feel happy when I use stuff. All right, so this paper measures 5.5 inches by 4 inches, and I'm just going to stick that down to the inside. I've brought in another piece of cardstock, and I've got my 3 pumpkins that I plan to use. This first one I'm going to ink up with some Love Struck by Simon Hurley Create. It just matched that pattern paper so nicely. And it's stamped really well. And then this next pumpkin, we are going to ink that up with some Rosy Cheeks. It's a nice pretty pink. That matches really well also. And then our final pumpkin, we're going to ink that up with some Slippery When Wet. Now that one's going to go on the inside of the card. But I love that there are, I think 4 pumpkins on this set. You also have 2 bats and a ghost. Such a sweet little set. And then I'm going to line up the flower pieces for each of those pumpkins and ink that up with some Weeping Willow, and then we'll stamp those down on top of the pumpkins. I did stamp the word Hey Pumpkin, and then I'm lining up 3 sentiments on my glass mat, and then I'm going to ink that up with some Weeping Willow, and we'll stamp that on the inside. I'm beyond grateful for all you do. I'm in need of a lot of thank yous right now. So I'll bring in those matching dies for each of those pumpkins, and then we'll run that through our little die cutting machine. And then I am going to cut down the Hey Pumpkin. We use our paper trimmer for that. And then I'm going to adhere. I should have done this before I put the pattern paper down on top, but I'm going to put a little tab. This will just be handy. Then the recipient knows to pull the tab. You could even stamp the word pull on there if you wanted to, if you had another stamp set that said that. And then I'll cover that up with the sentiment, Hey Pumpkin. But like I said, I probably should have put that down underneath the pattern paper. Just wasn't thinking at the time. And then we'll adhere down 2 of our pumpkins to this piece. And then we'll take our final little pumpkin and we'll put them on the inside, all using liquid glue. You could probably use some foam tape on the outside, but I figured this was already thick enough. I didn't want to do that. And then I'm going to take this and put this on top of our gatefold like so. And look at that. It stays closed. It's perfectly closed. And then the recipient can pull that off whenever they're ready. I just love these. I think they're such a neat variation of the gatefold. And I'd be curious to know if you're willing to give it a try. So go ahead and leave that down in the comment section if this is something you've seen before, or you've already tried this, or you're willing to give it a try. I love gatefolds. I think those were the very first type of fun folds that I've ever tried. And yep, the fascination's still there. I did make another one. I used those darling little bats from the set. This is the first time I'd ever stamped out with those little bats, but they're super cute too. And I love the little floral detail that comes with it as well, that you can stamp those in color or leave it blank. You wouldn't have to stamp that out. But yeah, I'm so happy with how these turned out. So if you like this video, please be sure to hit that like button. Definitely consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. And as always, I will see you very soon in another video. Bye, everybody.